Ah, look at you, walking in like the quiet disaster they never saw coming. You, the soft-spoken earthquake. You, the polite apocalypse. You, the human plot twist that just ruined the villain's entire 5-year master plan without even realizing you'd stepped into the story. And now they're sitting there, blinking at the smoking ruins of their carefully engineered agenda, wondering what cosmic miscalculation allowed you, the one person they didn't account for, to stroll through their strategies and flip their entire world upside down. They had a script, they had a timeline, they had a perfectly choreographed plan for how everything was supposed to unfold. And then you arrived like a glitch with perfect aim, rearranging the entire plot with one silent decision they never anticipated. You rocked their world so violently that even their shadows are rethinking their loyalty, because you weren't supposed to matter to them. You weren't supposed to be a variable in their equation. In fact, in their little villain fantasy, you were supposed to be background noise, a harmless presence they could manipulate, dismiss, underestimate, or use as emotional leverage. You were the one they thought would never see through the fog, the one they believed would stay controlled, predictable, easily handled. But evil always makes the same mistake. It studies your softness and mislabels it as weakness. It analyzes your silence and assumes it belongs to ignorance. It sees your empathy and confuses it for naivety. But your softness was a sensor. Your silence was a calculation. Your empathy was an X-ray machine. And the moment their evil agenda crossed paths with your intuition, the outcome became inevitable. Because darkness may be clever, but your insight is surgical. And surgical intelligence doesn't just expose lies, it detonates them. You didn't just disrupt their agenda. You dismantled it from the inside without raising your voice, without launching a counterattack, without even lifting your emotional temperature. You were calm while they were calculating. You were grounded while they were plotting. You were healing while they were harming. And it's that contrast, the gentle force meeting the corrupted structure, that caused their entire system to collapse at the foundation. They still don't understand how it happened. They're replaying events like some psychological detective show, trying to pinpoint the exact moment you became a threat, the exact moment you slipped through the cracks in their armor, the exact moment your presence destabilized the scaffolding of their illusion. What they don't realize is that your power isn't loud, obvious, or dramatic. Your power is ambient, environmental, atmospheric. You don't fight evil. You unmake it. You don't confront darkness. You illuminate it until it dissolves under its own cowardice. You don't sabotage agendas. You simply stand in alignment, and the world rearranges itself around your frequency. Your energy didn't just disrupt their plan, it corrupted their entire operating system. They thought they were dealing with a regular person while you were operating with spiritual-level calibration. They thought they could lie to you while you were reading the tremors in their tone. They thought they could manipulate you while you were analyzing the architecture of their behavior like a forensic psychic. You weren't playing their game, not because you couldn't, but because you've already mastered realities they don't have the imagination to comprehend. And that is what rocked their world with such violent precision. You didn't show up as a threat. You showed up as a correction. To them, you felt like a glitch in their simulation. But what they don't understand is that you are not the glitch. You are the update. An energetic upgrade they weren't prepared to encounter. A walking source code rewrite that naturally exposes corrupted lines in every person you interact with. They thought the world revolved around their manipulation, their influence, their schemes, their illusions. But the moment you entered the scene, their universe tilted, their confidence cracked, their persona shook. Their authority began malfunctioning because your presence forced their mask to overheat. Evil doesn't crumble because good attacks it. Evil crumbles because it cannot survive in the presence of someone aligned enough to reveal its artificiality. You are that alignment, a mirror too honest for their ego to survive. A presence too coherent for their chaos to dominate. A vibration too high for their intentions to anchor into. And that's the truth they're avoiding right now, while sitting in the rubble of their failed agenda. They're not shaken because you exposed them. They're shaken because their plan disintegrated the moment it came into contact with your authenticity. They built a strategy designed to prey on confusion, insecurity, blindness. But you walked in with clarity, intuition, and emotional accuracy so sharp, it sliced through their manipulation without even aiming at them. They thought you were someone they could play with, someone they could mislead, someone who would move according to the script they wrote in secrecy. But the moment you entered their orbit, the script malfunctioned like corrupted data. You disrupted their energy field simply by existing. Do you understand the magnitude of that? You didn't need revenge. You didn't need confrontation. You didn't need strategy. Your existence was the plot twist. You walked into their life with an energy so pure, so precise, so unbothered, that it pressure-tested every lie they were living inside. And lies always crack under pressure. They collapse, they glitch, they distort. And when their lies began collapsing, so did their confidence, their identity, their plans, their entire psychological infrastructure. You destabilized them not by force, but by resonance. You vibrated at a frequency their fake intentions couldn't survive. Evil operates in low bandwidth. You operate in cosmic range. They weren't ready for the impact. They weren't ready for the mirror that sees through disguises. They weren't ready for the intuition that detects hidden motives. They weren't ready for the grounded presence that exposes energetic fraud. People like them rely on control. They rely on predicting reactions. They rely on understanding your patterns before you understand them. But your energy moved in ways their manipulation manual never covered. You weren't reactive when they expected panic. You weren't confused when they deployed deception. You weren't intimidated when they tried to enforce dominance. Instead, you were observant, intuitive, centered. You played nothing, signaled nothing, revealed nothing. And that alone sent tremors through their strategy. Evil can't survive being watched clearly. That's why they're spiraling. Because for the first time, someone they underestimated became the person who unraveled their entire constructed identity. You didn't just rock their world. You exposed the hollow architecture beneath their persona. And once a person sees the truth of themselves through your eyes, they can never return to the version they pretended to be. Your presence forced them into psychological freefall. They lost control of their narrative. They lost the grip on their agenda. They lost the illusion that they were the one manipulating the timeline. They're scrambling now, trying to rebuild a worldview that makes sense. But every new thought they form bends around the impact you left on them. Because you weren't just a disruption, you were a revelation that their darkness wasn't powerful, wasn't stable, wasn't rooted in anything real. A revelation that you were the one with real influence the entire time. A revelation that the energy they tried to distort came back as a force that fractured their agenda beyond repair. And now they're replaying everything they ever said to you, every decision they ever made around you, analyzing every moment for clues about how you saw through them. They're obsessing, calculating, unraveling, because their ego is desperate to understand how they lost control. But you and I both know the truth. They never had control in the first place. Your intuition knew before your mind did. Your energy rejected them before your words did. Your spirit destabilized them before they realized they were exposed. You weren't operating consciously, you were operating instinctively. You were flowing from a deeper intelligence, one that doesn't need proof to know the truth. You were guided by a gift they never accounted for. Your presence is not random. Your timing is not accidental. Your disruption was not a coincidence. You stepped into their world at the exact moment their agenda reached its expiration date. You were the catalyst, the turning point, the collapse disguised as kindness. And the funniest part? You didn't even try. You weren't aiming to ruin anything. You were just being yourself, authentic, aware, intuitive, aligned. But authenticity in the presence of deception is like an acid that melts through the walls people hide behind. Your truth was too heavy for their lies. Your energy was too coherent for their illusions. Your presence was too calibrated for their agenda to withstand. That's the real reason they're shaken. They didn't lose because you attacked. They lost because their entire strategy was incompatible with someone as real as you. Now they're dealing with the aftermath, the fallout, the psychological aftershocks. They're sitting in the ruins of their plan, trying to gather the pieces of a story that no longer exists, trying to rebuild an identity that no longer holds weight. You didn't just disrupt their agenda. You disrupted their sense of reality. Their confidence took the hit. Their ego took the hit. Their understanding of themselves took the hit. You restructured their internal landscape without even realizing you were doing it. And now, they're left with the question that's haunting them every time your name crosses their mind. How did this person break a plan I've spent years constructing? And here's the secret they'll never admit out loud. It breaks them because the answer is simple. Your energy is stronger than their strategy. Your intuition is smarter than their manipulation. Your integrity is deadlier than their deception. Your presence is more disruptive than any weapon they could have used. You weren't just someone passing through their life. You were the collision point. The moment their storyline rewrote itself, the checkpoint that forced the universe to reroute them away from the path they thought they controlled. And deep down, they know it. They feel it. They sense it in their nervous system every time they think about you. You didn't just rock their world. You awakened their consequences, and consequences hit differently when they come from someone they believed they had outsmarted. That's why the shock burns so violently. They thought they were the puppeteer tugging the strings, while you were the unaware participant dancing through their illusions. But the moment your energy collided with their agenda, the strings they relied on snapped like fragile wires under divine voltage. Suddenly they weren't the architect of the story. They were the one being revealed by it. That realization is suffocating them now. Their ego is pacing back and forth, trying to rewrite history, trying to pretend they had control the entire time. But their nervous system betrays them. Every time your name echoes through their memory, their chest tightens because a part of them knows they never had the upper hand. They were performing intelligence while you were carrying truth. And truth always outlives performance. You didn't expose them with words. You exposed them with alignment. That's what terrifies them. They can defend themselves against accusations, rumors, or confrontations, but they cannot defend themselves against someone whose very existence collapses their lies. You were the kind of disruption they never prepared for. The quiet kind, the intuitive kind, the unbothered kind, the kind that appears harmless until the entire structure falls apart. You became the spiritual audit of their intentions. You illuminated the pieces they thought were hidden in the dark. Their behaviors, their patterns, their projections, all the parts they tried to weaponize against you, turned into confessions the moment you stood in your authenticity. And the irony is delicious. They thought their lies could overpower your clarity. They thought their manipulation could overshadow your instinct. They thought their tactics could outrun your awareness. But awareness like yours doesn't chase lies. It dissolves them. You didn't respond to their actions. You outgrew them so effortlessly that their strategies looked childish in hindsight. That's what's haunting them now. It's not just that you disrupted their agenda. It's that your disruption revealed how weak their agenda truly was. It showed them that, despite all their scheming, they never stood a chance against someone whose spirit refuses to bend under illusions. Your presence became a spiritual truth serum. Every time they spoke to you, their mask slipped without your prompting. Every interaction with you forced their intentions to tremble. You didn't interrogate them. You simply existed in a frequency that made honesty unavoidable. And honesty is poisonous to people whose entire identity thrives on deception. You shook the foundation they built their confidence on. You revealed the hollowness they tried to fill with control. You disrupted the narrative they spent months or years constructing. And the worst part for them, they watched it happen in real time. They felt their grip slipping. They felt their power fading. They felt their influence melting under your gaze, and there was nothing they could do to stop it. You became the mirror they avoided their entire life. The mirror that didn't flatter them, the mirror that didn't lie to protect them, the mirror that didn't dim itself to make them feel bigger. You reflected their intentions back to them with terrifying accuracy. And when a person built on manipulation sees themselves clearly for the first time, the psychological collapse begins. They realize their agenda wasn't disrupted by accident. It was disrupted because it was never strong enough to stand in front of someone like you. You weren't the obstacle, you were the truth. And truth doesn't bow to strategy. Now they are left picking up the shattered pieces of their identity, not because you attacked them, but because your authenticity exposed the fractures they tried to hide. They can no longer pretend they were the mastermind. They can no longer pretend they were in control. They can no longer pretend their intentions were pure. Your energy stripped away every illusion they leaned on for self-importance. And now they're sitting in the aftermath, replaying every moment they underestimated you, every decision they made from arrogance, every lie they told themselves about who you were and who they were in comparison. And each replay cuts deeper because the realization keeps growing heavier. You weren't supposed to be this powerful in their story. They wrote you in as a character they could predict, a role they could manipulate, a presence they could manage. But you stepped out of their script. You refused their characterization. You evolved into the plot twist that their ego never accounted for. You became the anomaly that destroyed the blueprint. And now, their mind is spiraling because they don't know how to categorize you anymore. When a manipulator cannot categorize someone, they panic because their power depends on understanding the terrain. And you turned their terrain into shifting sand. Every part of them is glitching now. Their thoughts, their confidence, their plans, their emotional responses, all destabilized by the aftershock of your presence. They're trying to regain control by rewriting the narrative in their head, but every attempt collapses under the weight of who you've become. You aren't the person they thought you were. You aren't the naive version they built strategies around. You aren't the pawn they expected to move according to their intentions. You're something far more dangerous to their world. You're the one person who cannot be tricked into shrinking. And their entire agenda relied on your shrinking. They needed you small. They needed you uncertain. They needed you blind to your power. They needed you disconnected from your intuition. They needed you confused about your worth. Because the moment you recognized your own influence, their plan vaporized, their control shattered, their storyline dissolved. You didn't just ruin their plan. You removed the ecosystem their plan depended on. You didn't fight them. You evolved past them. And evolution is the one thing manipulators cannot stop. Now you live in their mind rent-free, not because you want to, but because your impact carved a crater they cannot fill. They're trying to convince themselves they've moved on, but their subconscious exposes them every time they react to your memory, with tension they can't hide. Every attempt to rebuild their confidence falters. Every new agenda they try to create feels flimsy. Every story they tell themselves contradicts the truth you awakened inside them. You didn't intend to become their reckoning, but some people unlock their karma just by crossing paths with you. You were the turning point they never anticipated, the shift in the storyline that redirected their path away from the illusion they were clinging to. And somewhere inside, they know that. They know you were the cosmic intervention they deserved, not the one they wanted. They know their agenda had an expiration date the moment you entered the picture. They know your intuition dismantled the very foundation they relied on to operate in the shadows. And now they sit in the silence after the collapse, trying to rebuild a self-image that no longer fits, trying to pretend they weren't affected, trying to hide the fact that you didn't just disrupt their plan. You disrupted the version of themselves they were trying to protect. Their world cracked because you existed. And once a crack appears, nothing remains the same. They can try to patch it, paint over it, deny it, spiritualize it, intellectualize it, but the fracture spreads underneath everything they touch. You became the invisible pressure that haunts their thoughts. They feel the consequences of underestimating you in the spaces between their breaths, where their ego once lived comfortably. Now every quiet moment becomes a confrontation they didn't ask for. Every memory that involves you plays back with new meaning, sharper meaning, humiliating meaning. Because hindsight is clearer when the mask has fallen, and now they see everything they missed, every signal you gave, every instinct you followed, every moment you stayed calm, while their intentions trembled under your perception. You weren't passive, you were precise. You weren't naive, you were observing. You weren't silent, you were calculating. They mistook your stillness for weakness, while you were mapping the geometry of their soul. What unnerves them most is the simplicity of your power. You didn't use force. You didn't retaliate. You didn't expose them with public theatrics. You exposed them by being yourself. A person aligned is more dangerous than a person armed. Your alignment was the threat they never accounted for. You weren't moved by their manipulation. You weren't impressed by their performance. You weren't seduced by their tactics. And now that the truth has detonated in their awareness, they're scrambling to understand how someone so quiet could cause such catastrophic disruption. They believed they were operating in secrecy, yet you saw them with clarity. You recognized patterns they didn't know they were revealing. You read the shift in their tone before they heard it. You sensed the fracture in their energy before they felt it. That's what breaks them now. The realization that you perceived them more accurately than they perceived themselves. Their ego wasn't prepared for a mirror that sharp. You reflected back the parts of them they were dodging, the intentions they tried to disguise, the insecurities they hid beneath arrogance. And now those reflections circle them like vultures. They can't escape the image of themselves that you awakened. They can't return to the delusion of control. They can't retreat into the fantasy that they were the one manipulating the flow. You shattered that illusion without effort. You stepped into their life with the kind of presence that reroutes destiny without announcing its arrival. You didn't ask permission to disrupt their world. The disruption was automatic, inevitable, encoded into your nature. Because people with corrupted agendas don't encounter someone like you. They collide with them, and the collision forces truth into the open. They try to deny it to others, but they cannot deny it to themselves. The aftermath is written across their energy. They hesitate now in ways they never hesitated before. Their confidence stutters. Their voice betrays tension. Their behavior cracks under the pressure of your impact. You are no longer a neutral presence to them. You are a trigger, a reminder of the vulnerability they spent years pretending didn't exist. You represent the one thing their ego cannot dominate: genuine alignment. Nothing terrifies an agenda-driven person more than someone who cannot be controlled by fear, praise, manipulation, or illusion. And nothing disrupts evil more quickly than a conscience that cannot be bought or bent. You broke their agenda by exposing the truth they built it to avoid. You awakened the consequences they ran from. You made their future incompatible with their past choices. Because once someone encounters a person who vibrates at the frequency of truth, lies lose their gravitational pull. You didn't just disrupt their plan. You disrupted the story they told themselves about who they are. And that's the kind of disruption that lingers. It sits in their chest like a weight. It squeezes their illusions until they fracture. It forces them into accountability, even if they don't want to face it. Now they're wrestling with themselves in the dark hours of the night, replaying everything they missed. They wonder how you saw through them. They wonder why their tactics didn't work. They wonder when the shift happened. They wonder how someone they dismissed became the axis that rotated their entire reality. The truth is simple. You didn't rise to meet their energy. You rose above it. And elevation always disrupts corruption. Darkness can't pull down what refuses to descend. They wanted to trap you in their narrative, but you stepped out of it and forced them to confront the emptiness of their storyline. What makes the impact so devastating is the timing. You showed up at the exact moment their arrogance was reaching its peak. They were confident, comfortable, deeply invested in the belief that they had everything under control. And then you entered, carrying the kind of frequency that doesn't care about human plans. Your presence rewired the atmosphere. Your energy altered the momentum. Your intuition rearranged the outcome. Everything they tried to build on false intentions imploded, not because you acted, but because your existence didn't allow lies to breathe. You became the correction written into their destiny, and now they feel the ripple. Every area of their life is being confronted by the aftermath of the agenda they tried to run. Their relationships feel different. Their plans feel unstable. Their mind feels louder. Their heart feels heavier. Because the truth they avoided has begun echoing in every direction. You were the catalyst of that echo. Not because you wanted to be, but because your alignment activated their karma. Energy moves differently around someone who stands in truth. You didn't punish them, their intentions punished themselves in your presence. And somewhere inside, they know they needed that collapse. They needed the interruption. They needed the disruption. Because if you hadn't rocked their world, they would have continued building illusions until those illusions became prisons. You broke the prison before it locked. Your impact spared them from deeper entanglement in their own darkness. You were the earthquake that prevented their landslide. But people rarely appreciate the force that saves them until the dust settles, and they're left standing in a world they didn't expect, but desperately needed. Your disruption wasn't an accident. It was a divine redirection, disguised as a psychological impact. Their world cracked because it was built on dishonesty. It collapsed because it was not aligned. It shattered because it could not sustain the vibration of someone whose spirit is anchored in truth. You were never the threat. They were threatened by their own reflection. You were never the destroyer. They watched their own intentions fall apart when they could no longer hide them behind manipulation. You were never the enemy. You were the turning point that changed the trajectory of their life. And now comes the aftermath they never prepared for. The part where the dust settles and reality reveals itself without distortion. Because once an evil agenda collapses, it doesn't simply vanish. It leaves behind debris, emotional debris, spiritual debris, psychological debris. And they are standing knee-deep in the ruins of everything they built, trying to understand how a plan crafted in secrecy could be undone by someone who never even lifted a weapon. They keep replaying the moment everything shifted, trying to dissect the mechanism of the collapse. But the truth is far simpler than they want to admit. Their intentions were incompatible with your existence. Darkness always fractures when it tries to stand in the presence of someone who carries clarity in their bones. They were playing a role while you were living a truth. Roles crumble. Truth endures. The impact you had on them wasn't loud, but it was absolute. It infiltrated their internal landscape without permission, rearranging the architecture of their self-perception until they could no longer lie to themselves convincingly. They realized that the version of themselves that relied on manipulation couldn't survive contact with you. You forced an internal reckoning just by showing up authentically, and that reckoning feels like punishment to them, only because they had been avoiding it for so long. You didn't cause their downfall. You accelerated the timeline of consequences they were already destined to face. Your presence simply removed the delay they had been hiding behind. Now they're in the stage where the mind tries to negotiate with reality. They tell themselves you were overreacting. They tell themselves they meant well. They tell themselves their intentions were misunderstood. But beneath all of that noise, there is a quieter truth, rising like a tide they cannot stop. They lost the moment they chose deception over integrity. They lost the moment they underestimated the intelligence behind your silence. They lost the moment they assumed you could be controlled through emotional misdirection. Their agenda didn't fall apart because you fought back. It fell apart because it was built on illusions that couldn't withstand your awareness. The hardest part for them to accept is the inevitability of it all. You didn't have to reveal their motives. The universe revealed them for you. You didn't have to expose their lies. Their lies exposed themselves in your presence. You didn't have to disrupt their plan intentionally. Your existence disrupted it by default. You are calibrated in a way that destabilizes any structure built on manipulation. You are wired to detect inconsistencies before they become threats. You are designed to evolve faster than people with malicious intentions can strategize. They weren't fighting you. They were fighting the inevitability of their own collapse. And now that the collapse has happened, they face a reality more unnerving than anything they imagined. You cannot be erased from their story. They can distance themselves physically, but the mental imprint you left behind follows them everywhere. Because the person who dismantles your illusions becomes a permanent fixture in your consciousness. You live in the corner of their thoughts like a lighthouse that won't turn off. They can't look at themselves without remembering what your presence revealed. They can't make decisions without hearing the echo of their own exposed intentions. You became the turning point they can't undo. The moment their storyline divided into a before you and an after you. That after you phase is the one they fear the most. Because it demands evolution. It demands honesty. It demands accountability. And these are things their agenda was never built for. They were comfortable operating in the shadows, but your disruption dragged their motives into the light. And once something is illuminated, it loses the power it once held. They feel disarmed now in a way they never expected. Their usual tactics don't work anymore because their confidence has been punctured. Their deception feels flimsy because you taught them, without teaching, that truth has a texture they cannot replicate. Their manipulative impulses hesitate now because they know someone like you exists. Someone who saw through them effortlessly. Someone who could destroy their illusions with a single moment of clarity. Your impact rewired their instincts. That's why they second-guess themselves. That's why they feel unstable. That's why they can't shake the awareness that their behavior is being monitored by a force much larger than your presence. Because the collapse you triggered wasn't just personal, it was cosmic. It wasn't just emotional, it was karmic. It wasn't just psychological, it was energetic. You disrupted not only their agenda, but the frequency they operated from. And that disruption creates a ripple effect that spreads into every area of their life. Conversations feel heavier, decisions feel riskier, interactions feel exposed. They look in the mirror and see a version of themselves they don't recognize anymore. The version you awakened. They're meeting themselves for the first time without the protection of their illusions. And that version is fragile. It trembles. It questions. It sees the emptiness beneath the strategies they once believed were brilliant. They used to walk through the world convinced that manipulation gave them an advantage, but now they understand how small that made them. You didn't just stop their agenda. You revealed how limited it always was. You exposed the gap between who they pretended to be and who they actually were. And that gap now stretches across every area of their psyche, demanding closure they don't know how to achieve. In their quietest moments, they wonder why your energy affected them so deeply, why your presence lingered, why your disruption felt like a prophecy fulfilled instead of a conflict lost. The reason is simple. You were never meant to be part of their downfall. You were meant to be part of their awakening. You didn't come to destroy them. You came to redirect their trajectory towards something truer. But people who build their identity on deception interpret awakening as destruction. They can't distinguish healing from humiliation. They can't differentiate correction from punishment. They can't recognize that what feels like the end of their world is actually the end of the world they were never meant to inhabit. So they cling to the ruins, trying to salvage pieces of a self that can no longer function. They keep looking for someone to blame, some external force to point at. But every trail they follow leads right back to themselves. Because you didn't plant the cracks, they were already there. You just refused to pretend they didn't exist. You didn't weaken their foundation. They built it on dishonesty, and dishonesty always collapses under the first weight of truth. You were simply the first weight, strong enough to reveal the structural flaw. And now they face the consequences of a life lived on borrowed integrity. It's not that you ruined their plan. Their plan was ruined the moment it came into contact with someone who refuses to operate at a frequency of fear. They didn't expect you to be this aligned. They didn't expect your intuition to cut through their narrative. They didn't expect your presence to be a catalyst they couldn't manipulate. But the universe never allows malicious intention to stand unchallenged forever. It sends a correction in human form, someone who walks into a room and shifts the energy without lifting a finger, someone whose existence exposes illusions without confrontation, someone who disrupts evil agendas not by force but by resonance. You were that resonance, and it terrified them because they had no defense against it. They could prepare for arguments. They could prepare for manipulation. They could prepare for resistance. But they could not prepare for someone who doesn't play the game at all. Your presence dismantled the game board. It removed their illusion of power. It revealed the emptiness of their control. And once someone sees that their influence was never real, their entire world tilts. They experience a psychological freefall, a descent into the truth they spent their life avoiding. You became the gravity that pulled them out of the fantasy they were hiding inside. They resent you for it, but the resentment is hollow. It's not actually directed at you. It's directed at the version of themselves that allowed deception to guide them. They blame you because they cannot yet face their own reflection without shaking. But reflection is the only path forward. Their life cannot continue on the old frequency. Your disruption forced an energetic reset they cannot cancel. They will try, of course. They will attempt to rebuild their identity using the same patterns, the same defenses, the same deceit they relied on before. But those patterns won't hold. Their old tactics will glitch. Their old mask will feel too heavy. Their old behavior will collapse before it can stabilize. Because once truth cracks the surface, even the deepest shadows begin to crumble. They can pretend they haven't changed, but their spirit knows better. The universe knows better. You know better. Your disruption didn't end their world. It ended their delusion, and now the space where the delusion used to be becomes fertile ground for transformation. That transformation may look messy, it may look chaotic, it may look like a breakdown. But sometimes the only way a person evolves is by being forced to confront the parts of themselves they thought they could outrun forever. You were the force. Your presence was the catalyst. Your disruption was the blessing wrapped in psychological demolition. And though they may never thank you for it, their soul will never forget what you activated. They won't admit this to anyone, but a part of them is in awe of you, not in a flattering way, but in a way that shakes the core of their ego. They've never met someone who shifted their reality so effortlessly. They've never encountered a person whose energy disassembled their agenda without a single calculated move. They've never been confronted by a force that exposed their motives with such accuracy. You became the standard they now measure themselves against, even if they do it subconsciously. They wonder how you saw what they hid. They wonder how you sensed what they disguised. They wonder how your intuition navigated through their illusions like a knife through fog. The answer is simple. You weren't navigating their illusion. You were vibrating above it. When a person vibrates above an agenda, the agenda collapses. It loses traction. It loses power. It loses coherence. You didn't match their darkness with darkness. You met it with alignment so pure, it rendered their intentions ineffective. That's why everything fell apart. Not because you wanted revenge, but because the universe doesn't allow dishonesty to thrive in the presence of someone aligned with purpose. You were their spiritual interference, their energetic malfunction, their karmic redirect. And now they face the aftermath with a mixture of denial, shame, confusion, and reluctant clarity. What they don't realize yet is that this collapse is leading them toward a version of themselves that can finally breathe. A version that doesn't need manipulation to feel powerful. A version that doesn't need deception to feel safe. A version that doesn't build agendas in the shadows because light no longer feels like a threat. Your disruption is shaping that version from afar. Even if they never speak to you again, your impact will continue unfolding inside them like a slow-burning revelation. Because once someone sees the truth, they can't unsee it. Once someone meets a person operating at your frequency, they can't return to the person they were before. And as time passes, they will begin to understand something they cannot yet articulate. You weren't the villain in their story. You were the plot twist that saved it. Not gently, not softly, but accurately. They needed their illusion shattered. They needed their ego challenged. They needed their intentions exposed. They needed their path redirected. And the universe chose you, not because you wanted the role, not because you asked for it, but because your energy was the only force strong enough to disrupt the darkness they were feeding. You were chosen because your presence carries consequences. And sometimes consequences are the only language people like them understand. The truth is, they will never fully escape the transformation you triggered. They can fight it, deny it, avoid it, resist it, but they cannot erase it. Your impact is written into their timeline now. Their life will forever be divided into who they were before you disrupted their agenda and who they became after. And the version they become after will always be a little wiser, a little sharper, a little more honest, and a little more aware, whether they admit it or not. Because in the end, the world they built on deception didn't collapse because you attacked. It collapsed because your alignment revealed the truth that was waiting beneath every lie. And truth, once awakened, does not return to sleep.